I just showed you porn on my elementary child's device at school in the library, was in violation of data and privacy laws. And several of those were selling the kids' data.
State test scores are the worst they have been in decades. And when you see the graphs, it should shock every parent. Like, it is stunningly bad.
Report these two moms to the police if they send you any emails or texts of what they've been able to find.
Distribution of pornography.
Welcome back to God and Country. I'm Uriah Kennan. This is Ingrid Bettridge. We got a couple great guests on with us this week from the Child First Policy Center. This is Liz Jenkins and Allie Terry that are joining us this week to talk about what's going on in the schools, what's going on with our kids in the state of Utah here. We are back from being hacked. We got hacked about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, so 2 days before the Republican convention. People broke into our YouTube channel and kind of tried to steal it from us. It took us about 12 days to get it back from YouTube because YouTube's customer service is not phenomenal, to say in the least. But we're back. Everything's back up and running, and we're going to have fun anyway. So we're still trying to overcome the whole YouTube suppression problem. So please like, subscribe, and share. We need your support to get the channel out there. Look down below to our merchandise. Buy our T-shirts. Buy the book. Please help support the channel. So we're going to get right into the conversation of how things kind of got started with the Child First Policy Center and what's the main goals behind it. So every parent out there in the audience can know what we're trying to do to help save our children from deviousness that is out there right now.
Sure. So Child First Policy Center is a parent-led organization. We try to help build good policy, especially around technology at school, whether that's cell phones, Chromebooks. We get involved in some other things too. There's some bills like the App Store Accountability Act that Child First really supports. And currently we're working on trying to help other states who want similar legislation, similar action. And we're doing some training in the summer to do that.
So how did
it come to be?
Okay, great question. Allie, do you want to explain?
Sure. So this was like a year and a half ago, December 2024. My daughter, so this was right before Christmas break. My daughter was in 5th grade at the time. She came home from school and told me that she had received something bad on her Chromebook. And I was like, what do you mean bad? And she was like, I don't know. It's just this bad story.
And how old is she?
She was
5th grade. That was 5th grade at the time.
She was
right?
10.
Grammar school.
Yes. Yeah. So elementary. So I logged in to her account from home and was able to see this document that had been shared with her. And it was a story, an explicit story that a couple of boys or a few boys in the grade had written about another girl in the grade. But they had also hacked into another boy's account in the grade who is autistic and sent it from his email so that it looked like it came from him. But so anyways, it was just sad, right? Like this terrible story. And I'm like having to explain these things to my daughter of like what it is that they're talking about.
From the classroom, like during learning time, or
no, this was done so they can access the accounts at home. In elementary, they don't typically bring the Chromebooks home, but they can access their accounts from home. But middle school and high school, they bring the Chromebooks home. There might be some elementary schools where they do. But so anyways, that was like the introduction for me. Like I didn't realize they could share documents with each other like that. So then I'm like, what else are you sharing, and I realized very quickly that they use that as a way to basically text all day long. So then anyways, we tried to address it with our our principal, and then locally within our district, and really did not have a lot of success. But
So as parents, we're trying to limit our children's access to social media, right?
yes,
Most parents don't even allow their kids to even be on Facebook, TikTok, or anything like that until they're like
Or
teenagers.
have a device until they're
Or even have a
teenagers.
device when they're teenagers. So now we've created an internal social media network.
totally.
Yeah, that's kind of
That's
what
really
Google
what that
Docs
is.
can
It's-
become. Yes.
It's the school's own provided social media network.
Yes.
And interestingly, I mean, maybe you got this, but no teacher sees what's being shared. It doesn't like pass through a teacher or get sent to a parent. It's very internal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no screening. There's
No,
not
I
even
mean,
an
there-
AI screening what's being written.
And there are like filtering and monitoring that maybe would catch certain things like a picture or something. But in this case, it was a written document. And so it didn't
wasn't
catch it.
flagged. Yeah. And we also learned through just this, once that happened in this deep dive, that our kids can have private conversations with any adult, like any adult staff in the entire district has access to sending private messages to your child and vice versa. And I'm like, that's wild. That's crazy. Like, that does not make me feel comfortable as a parent. And I don't have any evidence of that being done. Right. But I feel like,
there's
The potential is there. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, we hear in the news all the time it's being done.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was kind of the beginning for us. And yeah, I mean, Liz had kind of been involved in the space a little bit before I
Because you're associated with
Corinne.
Corinne Johnson and
Yeah,
Parents
so at
First
that
United.
point we weren't. When Allie kind of brought this up, like she said, I'd been dealing with this a little bit in our district, just with a group of parents who cared. Pretty small group, around 10 to 20 who cared, and we would talk at board meetings. And we were asking things like, can we just keep the Chromebooks at school? We don't want to bring them home because, as parents, I'm sure a lot of parents relate to this. Your child brings home a device. You didn't ask for it. You don't want it. You're already managing a cell phone, your home computer, and now you have this other thing, and you can't add monitoring software. It's kind of locked down in its own system. So we were asking really simple things like that. And the district would just kind of placate us like, it's a great idea. We can't do that. And we were doing that for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And anyway, we can get into more of the details of that. But at some point, Allie and I, after about 5-6 months of again bringing up the issue and talking at board meetings, meeting with our superintendent at our school district, meeting with the IT director, showing them on a device, a school-issued device on the network, meaning logged into their Wi-Fi, which is supposed to be filtered, monitored, showing them in a matter of seconds, pulling up pornographic material, pulling up, like things like chat forums where you shouldn't be able to be getting. And they would be surprised and shocked, and nothing was changing. And finally,
or not shocked. I feel
we're not
like
shocked.
they would
Sometimes they
sit
were
there
like,
just
"Oh,
like- and it's
Yeah.
like, I just showed you porn on my elementary child's device at school in the library.
yeah, no, that's
You
true."
don't have any. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
It was pretty. We
But
learned
they
a
were
lot.
receptive to meet with you.
They were receptive to meet with us for sure. And I definitely felt like there were some people who I think knew the capability was there, and then some people who probably should have known, like maybe higher up in the district, and you could tell they had no idea. But then as we got into, I think they might have taken that back to the district and said, hey, there's this problem, and learned that there is kind of nothing that they could do. I think the school districts are really
What do you
subject
mean by
to
nothing you can do?
Well,
there's nothing you can do.
there
There's nothing
is-
that you want to do.
That's probably a better way of
Because
saying
I'm
it.
saying like, well, we're getting these things for free. Plus, there's bonus money behind them as well, and so all they're seeing is dollar signs. Well, let's mitigate it as much as possible. Most kids aren't doing it. You might have a few outliers. We can kind of sweep that underneath the rug and kind of deal with it on a case-by-case basis. But the overall picture is kids need technology. We're getting the technology for free. Plus, we're getting
Now, I have a
federal dollars,
sister-in-law
whatever
and
dollars for it too. And
Yes.
I can't
Somebody
say
has
no to
taken
that.
exception to that. My sister-in-law in Weber County says we are not getting them free, and she says I went and checked, and we are definitely paying for them. What
So-
is
I mean, we're probably the wrong people to ask. We actually did a grandma request. You guys are familiar with that term, right? And I mean, Allie could explain how that ended up. How did we get pushed off and off? We never got the grandma request.
Yeah.
What happened?
I wasn't specific enough in my requests. Like which, whatever. But like I said, I wanted, the contract that the state held with Google from like 2020 to 2025. And that was too wide of a range. Like you need to be more specific, or what kind of a contract. Like it was just kind of this.
And it was a very predictable push off because they have a certain number of days. What is it, like 30 days to get
I think it's 14
days to get you that information by law. So on day like 13 or whatever, they would text or email her back and say, I'm sorry, it's not specific enough. Please submit another request that's more specific. So I think you did that 1 or 2 times and finally we're like, whatever, we're getting nowhere. But I don't, like to your point, Uriah, I don't totally understand the money because it's not totally accessible. What I do know for sure is that in 2020, when Chromebooks became available to schools, they either got them free or very, very inexpensive. And that was actually a way of Google loading off a bunch of devices that were not successful in the normal market. They had a ton of Chromebooks that were not selling. And so all of a sudden, 2020 happens. This is a possible solution for schools who might not have students coming back into the classroom. We don't know. I mean, if we kind of throw back to what was happening during COVID, we didn't know in the summer of 2020 if our kids were going to go to school in the fall. And that was kind of how it was presented to us through our district was, yay, it's like July, I get an email, yay, we're going to give every kid their own device and they can come back to school. And then if there's a new variant and we need to send the kids back home, they'll have a device that can seamlessly interface with the curriculum and your kid won't have to miss out on school.
Yeah, and there can be merit to devices.
Totally. And I mean, it was a flexible option at the time where we kind of didn't know what's happening and what's going to be going on. I think a lot of us, including parents, kind of said, okay, maybe this is a good solution. And I think that was a solution for the school districts. But
like anything else with government, once they put a solution in place, they don't
you
pull
can't
it back.
get it out. Yeah.
You can't get it back.
And the whole system
It's like
adjusted.
with money, right?
it.
They appropriate money to something, and then 20 years later, the money's still appropriated to it when whatever it was appropriated to is long.
And that's definitely an argument for the devices and not getting rid of them is we've invested in them. Like we have purchased them now. Every year they go through an inventory and decide how many more do we need. They have to pay people, staff to like manage those devices. They have a big IT department. I mean, every district is spending a lot of money and they've gotten rid of things like the number of printers or, analog things that would have supported a classroom 10 years ago. They don't have as many of those. They don't have the same textbooks and things like that. So,
Because everything on those devices are cheaper. And I have nothing against the devices, but I've always been on the advocate. You just need to take internet off of them, period.
which would be awesome.
To just completely take any access to the internet off it as well. So they can have access to the servers at the school. They can download PDF digital textbooks, their homework. They can upload homework back when they get back to the school and get back onto the Wi-Fi.
intranet.
Yes,
If they need internet at home, then parents can be responsible for putting them onto
That would be
their
awesome.
home Wi-Fi routers, right? And then the kids can't access internet when they're off grounds or any place else or by themselves. It's completely regulated by a router at the school and a router at home, and
That would solve a lot of the problems.
not a single browser on it, right? No internet access. If you need internet access, I'm sure your parents have internet access at home and computers.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point too, because I think like maybe 10 years ago, we had fewer people who at home had the internet. Maybe not 10 years ago, maybe more like 15 years ago. But now it's very ubiquitous. Like everyone's got it.
Everybody's got a cell phone nowadays.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, you can just hotspot it from your cell
Totally.
phone, right?
Yeah.
Totally. So it used to be a little bit of an issue of access. Like, oh, we're going to provide every kid, regardless of socioeconomic status or where they live, urban, rural, they're going to have access to the internet, which is so wonderful.
Even then, I don't know why schools need to be providing any type of internet access to a child, period, right? If you need to study for something, you need to research something, ask your parents to help you research. I mean, that's what you have parents for. The school's not the parent, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not in charge of teaching children anything outside of the scope of math, arithmetic, science. I mean, the LGBTQ stuff, crap that it's out there, any of this socialistic type ideologies out there amongst a lot of teachers, any of these protest type stuff that teachers try to get their kids involved with, that is not your purview.
Right.
End of story. That is not your purview. If you think it is behooving to you to indoctrinate the next generation, you need to go. You need to get fired. Yeah, I'm sick of teachers thinking that they can push some type of ideology that they learned themselves in college at these woke universities and think they can push it on to the next children, in despite of the parents' upbringing, their morals, their values, their Christian or non-Christian upbringing, whatever it is. You don't have zero rights, less than zero rights of teaching that child anything outside of basic curriculum. So if a child needs to research anything, they can go home and say, hey, Mom, Dad, I need to research this. Guess what? There's a school library. When I was a kid, I had encyclopedias. If they need access to Google when they get home, they can go on a home computer and access it, where a parent can be in control.
Or even, I would feel better about a school, what's the word for a room with computers? Computer lab.
Yes.
A school computer lab where there's some supervision, right? If a device is, I know a laptop is very different than a desktop, especially when you've got a bunch of teenagers in a room. If you've got a desktop, it sits in one place, the screen faces one direction, a kid checks into a computer lab, does a little work, and there's a supervising person at the back of the room who's kind of watching, is this person actually doing schoolwork? At least that's something, especially at a high school level, because I understand there are things that at this point you're probably going to need to go to the internet to do some research on. And I would feel better about a computer lab than these individual devices that are connected to the entire internet with I would say no supervision. If you ask a school district, they'll say, well, we have monitoring software and we have filtering software. We can talk about some of the problems.
See, that's my point. Is I don't care if you have filtering software.
It doesn't work.
Software. It's not your prerogative to do anything like that.
Yeah.
That's parents only.
So this goes
Where
back
do you
to
get the right to say, well, we're going to do this to the kid anyway, despite of what the parents say?
Well, I think you bring up a really interesting point of curriculum, because probably there have always been teachers who wanted to talk about their own stuff at school, right? That's probably been a problem as long as teachers have existed, maybe. But when we introduced schoolwork being so exclusively on devices, now we have a problem of curriculum, because at least before you could say you're teaching outside of this curriculum box, which is very, in Utah, it's very tight. Like you have to meet this, the state approves certain curriculum. That's what can be taught. But in the last 6 years, we've really gotten loose with that. If a teacher would like to use YouTube to teach a concept, that's now part of the classroom instruction. In fact, in many classes, it is a common instruction, like daily.
I had no idea.
No,
source.
it's
YouTube is a
constant.
curriculum
And there's
source.
issues with that. I mean, it has to be done correctly, or else they just get a full access to YouTube and anything on it. I mean, there's all sorts of issues. So, I mean, that the devices at school have really interrupted curriculum as well, and made it much harder as a parent or even as a school district to say, is what's being taught at school even something that should be taught at school? Because how can I stay up with, I have 3 kids in school right now. That's a lot of classes. I can't monitor everything that happens in every single class, nor should I have to do that, right?
Yeah, and I think that something else that we noticed too, once looking further into this as well, is so much of the learning that the kids do now, like the platforms that they use, are basically just like video games. It's like not really very educational.
And they don't learn that way. We don't learn
Right.
that
They
way.
don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
And there's a lot of data to back that up, Ingrid.
right. And so that was like really crazy too, is it's like, well, my kid can access any video game on the Chromebook, but also what is supposed to be teaching them learning is also video game format, and it's not great. Like they're not learning, and they can just click, 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 click until it like gives them the answer. And
So I have often have like just graduated from high school, or the 20-year-olds applying where I work. And there are some tests we administer for IQ and aptitude. You know, we only like higher end educated people, but they don't. So addressing a postcard, they don't know where the address goes or where the stamp goes. And that's not on them. Nobody's ever ever shown them. And so we do a lot of outflow from the office. Congratulations on making the science fair, what have you. And then it comes back and they're like, so the stamp doesn't go in the, yes, the upper right, but like there has to be a margin, like it has to be here and the address has to be here or the machine doesn't read it. Then there's something about margins. There's like a writing part or it's asking. I don't want to give too much away about the test, but it asks them about them, to do something in a specific margin and along it. The word along has no meaning to them. One of my most recent applicants, she goes, I don't know what's a margin. Because on these tablets, as they're learning and writing, it's like one continuous thing that just goes. There's no like worrying about staying in the margins, skipping going to the next paragraph. They don't know.
Yeah.
And that's just weird to me.
Yeah,
those are basic skills. I mean, I remember growing up, telephones came in, whether they were fake or real, I don't remember, but in the elementary school, and they taught you how to talk on the phone. Yeah. You identify yourself first when you're calling. This is Ingrid. May I speak to Uriah, please? And that who hangs up first. And when you go into somebody's home and like just those, like nothing, those things aren't being taught anymore. Right. But if you ask a kid certain things about like whether they think ice is good or bad, they have an opinion and they know.
Right.
It's totally backwards.
We've lost a lot of foundational skills for this generation.
Well, I think parents are just, or not parents, but teachers just getting lazy nowadays because there's so much available for them out on the internet, on YouTube, all these things where they could literally have AI that they don't allow, or kids are not supposed to be using, but they'll go out and use it themselves, and they'll have AI or YouTube or literally just prepare the lesson for them. So I don't want to put any effort into it. I'm going to take 10 minutes the night before, create my curriculum for the next day, AI generated or YouTube generated, and I just there's very, very little effort going into the next generation.
And he's not anti-teachers. His wife is a teacher.
My wife's a school teacher. I hear from her all the time, and she's been a teacher for almost 20 years now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think that I feel very sympathetic to the teachers because I feel like they're in a hard situation with, right, like what the district wants them to use. And then also I think that a lot of them, they have these ed tech companies that come in, like the sales reps for these ed tech companies. And
why are they coming into
They're doing training. So they train the teachers how to use the software that the school's contracted with. But it's, if you're training on a device, like we've all received training for things in work or whatever. And it's a little bit of a sales promotion the whole time, right? Like, look how great this works and how awesome this is.
So I think that there are a lot of teachers that really feel like, no, this is great. And so it's hard to be a parent that
because everything has its virtue and its negative side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like devices inherently are evil things.
But I think something, Liz and I have had a little bit of a difficult time with our particular school district. But so last summer there was a investigation / audit, like an independent investigation audit that was released, that was done on schools across the whole state of Utah on the most used software apps, and every single one but one, I think it was in violation of data and privacy laws, and several of those were selling the kids' data to ad tech companies. And I know that it sounds like when we brought this concern up, it sounds unbelievable, right? Like, you're just crazy. Like, that's not happening. The schools wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't be selling the kids information. That's against the law. And it's like, I know, that's why it's crazy. And we have evidence that this is happening.
I think it's also a confusion of, is the school doing it or the software? Because parents, I think we have a very inherent trust. We love our community schools. We love our teachers. They're helping our kids. They know our kids. And a lot of parents don't want to do anything that would sound like it's not in support of them. And I totally understand that. I feel similarly. But when, you make a statement like, well, the software is collecting and selling our kids' data, a lot of parents say, well, the school would never do that. Well, it's not the school. right? The school doesn't know that's happening, probably. They just contracted with that software. That software is supposed to be in compliance with Utah data and privacy agreements. After an audit, we learned that 97% of them are not. And this was an audit of 220 software applications, I
Heard
think.
of this with
It was done
a
with
lawmaker we had
BYU.
on. Were they fined?
No, so it was just an audit done between BYU and Internet Safety Labs. They collaborated to do the audit. It wasn't a government audit to get, to see how compliance was going. It was just to see what's actually happening. And the results do not release the names of the different companies.
They redacted them if those companies said that they were willing to get in compliance.
And they did.
Well,
But
did they?
I think a lot of them did. I think there was one that refused. And of course, the report doesn't say who it is. We're pretty confident we know who it is because there's only a few companies out there who can get away with saying, we're not going to do anything. And
Google.
I mean, I'm not going to say, I don't know.
I would bet.
And so anyway, I feel like, and the whole data thing is another issue when I talk to people and say, well, they're collecting and selling your kids' data. I think a lot of people think we're talking about like their name and their grade. And like, those are probably bad enough, but it's so much more than that. In fact, there was a security breach in Canvas. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Yeah. So this was just happening yesterday. And then I guess there was one previously, May 1st. And there's a lot of concern about this. Like, how secure are these devices and the software that we use? Clearly, they're not impenetrable. And then when they are penetrated, what is exposed? This is student information, teacher information. This is not going to be the last time this happens, and it'll be interesting to see what actually happens with the data that was breached.
Well, and a lot of it is too, like it'll, like if your kids do any surveys, right? Like it'll collect that data of, like what's your emotional status, what's like health issues, all of those types of things, socioeconomic status.
And that's my bigger fear, because I've actually heard a lot of those type of surveys being done, and a lot of the questions are aimed towards what are you experiencing at home? What do your parents think about this topic, about that topic? What have you heard about President Trump? What have you heard about Biden? What have you heard about ICE? I mean, like literally those type of questions out there where they try to get a reading on home. And then sometimes it gets a little more personal. Do you feel safe at home? Do you feel judged at home? And they start asking LGBTQ questions. Well, do you consider yourself male or female? Where are your leanings at? And I've seen these surveys in Utah, particularly a couple of them down in Utah County, which is Happy Valley, Utah County, and literally had these type of surveys asking those questions. And then that information is collected to find out where they need to push certain objectives, right? And that information gets sold out and say, we need to put more money into this area because our point of view is not getting across in these conservative areas, and it gets sold to these liberal, left-leaning, LGBTQ-leaning, and all that other type of stuff, organizations that come in and just try to push their agenda. And they know where to push the agenda and how hard to push the agenda by these simple surveys.
Right.
Now, the one point I want to make, and I want everybody to understand this, is I'm not against technology, because we live in a day and age where AI is going to completely take over the world right now. AI is going to be 10 times the impact on society that the internet was. And we know how big the internet was. When www opened up, it went crazy. AI is going to make that look like pennies. And our kids and our kids' kids are just going to grow up in a completely different generation. It's going to be the space age type generation, what we thought was cool looking at Star Trek when we were kids. Our kids are going to start living that reality.
Right.
And it's going to get even worse because we're going to have robots coming in, and it's going to be, we all grew up watching the Jetsons. And that reality is all of a sudden going to hit.
Right.
Particularly in the military age. I mean, I was just looking at reports of how the Ukraine war has just changed entirely in the last 6 months, where everything is drone. It's drones on the ground, drones in the air. Even Sean Ryan was commenting that special services or special forces are going to be absolutely obsolete because they did a special on trying to hide from a drone, even if you're special forces. And he says you can't hide. So it's going to be a completely different world. What we're saying specifically is kids have to learn technology because that is going to be their world. But there's a difference between learning the science behind the technology, the programming. If they're using a C language or they're using other types of Java languages or data type languages, or if they're learning how to type, or they're learning how to use software, they're learning how to use Microsoft Word or an Excel sheet, which they have to learn growing up, or if their teachers are teaching them how to use a PowerPoint presentation, or how to use PDF documents, or maybe they're using a publisher document or a Photoshop document. They have to learn that type of technology. What we're specifically saying cannot happen is out of control internet. And that just needs to be removed. You do not need an Explorer browser or a Google browser or any of these other browsers on these things to learn all this technology and become familiar with it and learn how to type. Again, if you need to research something, because we don't necessarily have encyclopedias anymore, if you need to go out and Google and research something, you can do that in an open screen environment. In a library. The library can have a couple rows of computers, right? If you don't want to dedicate a room to it. And your parents can monitor it on a home computer, personal computer at home. It is not the school's purview to be providing stuff to students outside of parents' authority, parent supervision, or anything else. And I'm sick and tired of schools, particularly out-of-state schools, because we saw what's going on in Colorado. We see what's going on in Oregon, where schools have literally taken over being parents, where parents can be labeled as bullies. You can have your child removed from the home if you misgender them now in Colorado. That law just passed. You literally, DCFS can come and take your child if you misgender them in Colorado now. It's just where schools have taken over it, and it's this liberal agenda where they want to indoctrinate the next generation. They want to get rid of conservative Christian values entirely because it doesn't meet what they see society should be. And the only way they can do that is by demonizing parents, taking control, exposing children to things they shouldn't be exposed to, because that turns them all to that left side. And we're literally fighting demons at this point. I mean, this is God and country, to get a little spiritual with that. It is a God versus Lucifer situation right now. And they're attacking our children through the internet. And if 100%. We do not control that and get schools completely out of that, where you just can't do it, period. If you want to provide a device that has all the software you teach them, great. But browsers need to be completely removed.
Yes.
Browsers. And we need to get ahead of the game as all this AI technology comes in. We need to decide how it's going to be administered, how we're going to teach.
So I think with AI and all the tech, this actually brings up a much broader question, which is, what is the point of education?
To teach you how to think.
It should teach you how to think. It should teach you foundational skills and how to think. And
notice how you say how to think and not what to think.
And this is one of the very biggest problems with tech now, is we have you think you have the internet, you have all the information in the world. And the truth is you actually have a lot less information. You're getting very curated information that might even be different than what the kid sitting next to you is getting, because we have these, algorithmic feeds that are showing us certain things. And maybe that's not exactly how it's happening in school.
That's a fabulous point.
But it's not maybe what we envisioned 5 years ago when we said, let's bring the internet into the classroom. It's looking very different. But also, a good question I like to ask people is, how did you learn to use AI? Because this is a common argument we hear. AI is the new thing. We need to teach kids how to use AI. How did you learn to use AI? You're not in school. Uriah, how did you learn?
It took me a little while to figure that one out.
It takes a little
I'm not
touch and go.
How to use AI.
Yeah,
I want to learn how to recognize AI so that I know what I'm looking at, whether it's real or not.
But it's pretty intuitive.
But it's also super intuitive, and it's constantly changing. So if we're teaching our kids skills of how to use AI or how to write a good prompt, well, in literally 2 months or 2 weeks, that is going to look different, right? What's a way to write a good prompt? Because the AI is changing. It's the fastest evolving technology by design. And so even what we're teaching now, we might feel good about doing that because it feels like we're being forward thinking. But I pretty much guarantee our kids who are in school now are going to graduate and it's going to be something else. So what they need is foundational skills. They know how to think. They need to have practice learning to think critically. And what I would actually love is what you described as some opportunities with technology, but then compare that to what you find in a book and have some critical thinking. Why is this book telling me one thing and the internet's telling me another, and I'm getting 3 different versions of the Revolutionary War or whatever, and use some critical thinking? That's exactly what we need high school students to be doing. And instead we're saying, look it up. Here's a good YouTube video. Answer these questions. Now you understand the Revolutionary War. And I think there are great teachers who are doing more of that critical thinking. But if we are just relying on the internet and the devices to do it for us, we have lost the whole point of why we're in school. Why are we educating our kids at all? Because maybe more important than ever is not that we train them to be, good employees or good workers, but we're training them to think critically, because that's the skills they're going to need going into the future.
Absolutely. Where did your first encounter that you were going to the district with or to the school with, how did that end up?
Go ahead, Allie.
It ended up that, they said that they wanted to, work with us and make things better. And they did tighten some things up, but not significantly. And I do think Google controls a lot of what is possible, and they create a lot of loopholes. And so I think no matter how hard the school district tries, it will not be enough for as long as the internet is there.
Yeah, it's just got to get removed, period. I want to point out 2 different things here. So last 2 years ago, when I was a county delegate, state delegate, she was a state delegate, I was working in the Davis area and trying to help John Croft get elected as one of the county commissioners. And I was calling all the delegates in the entire Davis County trying to get their opinion, because there was a certain woman over there that was running, and she was not necessarily opposed taking out of pornographic material out of school, out of libraries, right? And the commissioners are in charge of the city and county libraries, not the school libraries. But if we can get that type of material out of the county and the city libraries, then we can get it out of school libraries. And so I was asking all these delegates, or telling them, that she is actually a proponent for leaving that material in there. She thinks our kids need to be exposed to that. She's come out and said dumbed down versions of, I don't see a problem with that type of comments. And then I had a large number of delegates, particularly in the Bountiful area, that literally just came out and said, why wouldn't we expose our kids to that? They're going to get exposed to it at some point. Why don't we just,
We've heard that a little bit.
They need to get taught this stuff. I'm like, do you think they need to get taught this stuff in schools or anything like that? And literally just common Joe Blow delegates, they're just common citizens out there saying, no, I don't see a problem with that. And so if we're experiencing that amongst citizenry, and then you take that to the next step to the schools, where there is no education out there anymore that is not biased, where there's not some type of opinion being seeping into our history lessons. There's not some kind of opinion or indoctrination or campaign or agenda that is being put specifically into what's being taught our kids. It's more and more where those who get themselves into positions of authority, like we saw with our delegates who are trying to get specific people into our county commission seats, our city, our school board seats. We don't necessarily have a lot of very, very conservative people, Christian people running for those seats and winning. We have a lot of people that specifically want an agenda that are running for those seats and winning. Why? Because they know that that's how they're going to influence things. And so we as parents, we're not paying attention to that. And then you go to a school board, you go to a principal's office, and they don't care. Why? Because they learned in Harvard, or they learned in some of these other schools, that this is normal. So a couple months ago we had, and this is my second point, besides the county thing, we had Corinne Johnson on. And before we had that on, she sent me a link to a YouTube video and to a website of our teachers going to this course that was brought in, where teachers had to go in, and those mandatory attendance, they had to go in and they had to attend this course. And they were literally up there screaming at them saying, let's get a little more liberal. I can't remember the exact terminology. Everybody can go back to the Corinne Johnson video and watch it, but they had literally brought in instructors from Harvard, incredibly liberal instructors, and were forcing the teachers to repeat,
Yell it back.
yell certain
She
things
from the
back.
stage is yelling at them. I can't remember.
Yeah. Yelling back, saying that you have to repeat this, and it was this DEI quote that they're in. It was complete DEI.
I think that's what they were doing. Diversity.
Yeah, diversity, inclusion, diversity, equity. I think that's what they were screaming, and the whole agenda where the teachers couldn't turn it down. Right? They literally, it was required. They had to go to this training. And I'm like, why would the state of Utah, as conservative as we supposedly should be, but that we're not anymore, be bringing in instructors from Harvard, which is one of the, even though it's Ivy League, one of the most liberal indoctrinating schools out there. Why are we doing this? Why is that being approved? And it's because we have people in as principals, as the district superintendents, all having these liberal agendas, and they specifically get in these positions and they push this. And so when a parent like yourselves goes to these schools and says, I don't want my kids to have access to this, they're like, oh yeah, and they give you all the pleasantries, they give you all the comments, they give you what you want to hear, because this is exactly what I experienced in the elections, right? You get all these Democrat, very left-leaning, very liberal people registering Republican, getting voted in as delegates, getting voted again as commissioners, and they say all the right things in the campaign because they know only a Republican is going to get elected in the state of Utah, or only a conservative is going to get hired during the interview process. During the interview process, they say all the right things to get hired, right? But then they have a complete agenda on the backside of it, and then they slowly start creeping that in. And then a parent goes up there to try to dispute something, and it's the same thing. It's this complete act. It's this complete show. They'll tell you the right things to your face, right? And say, okay, we'll work on it. We'll work with these things. And then in the back of their heads,
Yeah.
I don't give a damn what this parent's saying. I know what we need to be pushing here, and this is not the direction we want to go with this. And they're literally overriding parents.
Yeah, go. Well, as you're talking, you bring up something that has been brought to my attention more through the last year and a half, which is how the system works as far as you have a district, and then you have the state above them making some decisions, which is the Utah State Board of Education, and then you have schools below the district. And then how do parents effectively advocate for their child? Well, you've got like all these tiers, the school, the district, the state. Where do you go? Well, if you go to the school, which is where you should probably go the first time you have an issue, talk to the teacher. They are awesome. They want to help you. They'll do everything they can in their power. What we learned is a lot of the time things are out of their power. So they say, go to the district. And the district says, well, go. Have you talked to your
They
teacher?
should be attending their school board meetings.
Who should be the teachers?
Parents.
Oh, parents. Yeah. So we go to our school board meetings, right? So you go to the school board meeting. Maybe you speak there. Maybe you meet with your superintendent like we did. And then you kind of get kicked around like a football.
You should go back to the school.
Go talk to your teacher. We'll talk to them. Or in our case, they said, yes, you can use this law, which was an opt-out, a parental right to opt out of parts of curriculum, which we were like, oh, great. It's within the law. Perfect. We opted out. Well, that really was not great for the teachers. It made a ton of extra work for someone like your wife. Now she's got students who are, some of them on a computer, some of them need paper and pencil. This is like a lot more work for the teacher. So it really pit us against our teachers, which was never our intention. We were just trying to go to the right people, and they gave us solutions that really weren't solutions. And then we find out that, you know, even though the district is in charge of IT and everything for the whole school district, it's actually contracts being made at the state level often, sometimes the district level, sometimes the school level. So it's very confusing as a parent to know, where should I go? But also the people making decisions aren't necessarily even interacting with your child. They may not even be using the software that they're contracting to use, right? They're managing a budget and they're deciding, oh, how much money do we spend? Oh, this contract costs this much money. But then in the end of the day,
presentation when they bought the stuff, and that's probably all they looked into it.
And often it comes back to, when it comes to ed tech software, what data is this going to give us? And then how do we use that data to report things to the state that then gives us money because there's money set aside for helping children who are struggling with reading, helping children who are struggling with math. So if a school can show through data used in the software that their kids are struggling, then they get certain amounts of that money. So it all comes back to funding, that is the job of the superintendent. He's basically the CEO of the school. He's running the financials, right? Along with other people there. But that's not the same people in the classroom every day with your kid using that device and seeing how it's not working. Or we haven't even got to this, but state test scores are the worst they have been in decades. And when you see the graphs, it should shock every parent. Like, it is stunningly bad.
How do those scores
They
correlate?
correlate directly. Yeah. Exactly. They start to go down as soon as
Well, speaking of that, so we did a episode where you were on a couple of weeks ago when we did the suicide episode up at the state capitol, and you and Corinne brought up the studies that were done in the Granite School District, as well as the one that was done up in Park City, right? Where they got
sure
rid
which
of.
ones you're talking about now.
So Corinne was talking about, or it was Heidi Baldry. It was Heidi Baldry was talking about. So Heidi Baldry brought it up. These studies that were done in the Granite School District and up in the Park City School District, where
the
they
fighting
had
went down.
where they had they had activated a no phone policy,
Yeah.
because strict no phone policy, and they even limited some of the tech. And they said the Park City School District, their test scores went up by over 45 or 50%. Wow. And then the Granite School District's test scores went up by 30 or 40%. But the biggest thing they learned that the school fights dropped by over 50% after they eliminated cell phones.
I'm so glad for those numbers, but like, this should not, I don't think this surprises any parent. Like, we see how our kids engage with their devices, how connected they are to their friends all the time. I mean, do you really think a kid is taking a cell phone to school and then not texting their friends or responding to, and is that distracting to what they're doing in class?
Well, is it getting rid of the secret under the curtains bullying that's going on, that's causing the fights in the person? Oh, he said this or she said this, and it gets around so fast when everybody's on their cell phone right during the day instead of concentrating. They're worried about what did they say in the last class, what did they say in this class. When you eliminate the phones all day long, and they're not communicating with each other all day, they're not pushing each other's buttons all day long, starting the fights at the end of the day. Guess what? The classroom's a focus when that's gone.
Right. They're also, I think those results also showed improved attendance, which is a major issue at our school because we have an open campus in our high school. And I know I was on the SEC for 2 years, maybe 3. So funny that I can't remember how long. But it was a major topic we talked about all the time. How do we get the kids to be in class? They're leaving, they're going to lunch, never coming back.
What's an open campus?
It means the students can leave. So they can leave for lunch.
They
Kind of like college, where
Kind of like college, right? Like a closed campus would say you stay here for lunch. You know, the bell rings in the morning, you stay here all day, and you leave at the end. You can't leave. But it's open. And so there was a problem with attendance. And forever we were talking about these issues. And I think it comes down to the fact that what got us to high school, what made me show up every day. I skipped class sometimes, it's true, but I really showed up because I wanted to see my friends. I wanted to hang out with people. Well, if you have a cell phone, you're constantly connected whether or not you're at school. So you can be, but also the cell phones are taking things away socially from our kids, because instead of talking to the person next to you in a class, you're texting your friends, or you're pretending to be texting your friend because you don't want to look like the kid who doesn't have anyone to talk to in class, because that's uncomfortable. Wow. So I feel like I am so glad that the bell-to-bell phone ban passed. I really hope it gets implemented well, because my daughter, she's 19. She graduated last year, so she's been out of school for a year. But Governor Cox actually initiated, what did he call it? It was like you had to have a cell phone policy beginning of 2020. It would have been 2024.
Yeah.
So when she was a senior. And so she had gone, all of middle school, all of high school, where there was virtually no limits on cell phones, and schools kind of didn't want to infringe on the rights of a parent to have a cell phone in school. We can talk about how that's like, how we can look at that a little differently. And she said to me about halfway through her senior year, she said, "Mom, I wish it had always been like this. I feel like I got gypped." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "People talk to each other. I'm making friends in my classes. I know more people this year than I did in other years. And I thought, you are a senior and you have had, how many years from middle school to high school? It's like 8 years. That is so sad to me."
And
that
they
she
thought it was a punishment. Like, you're not letting me.
yeah,
have,
of
like,
course
we
she
want-
didn't want it taken away at first, right? And even in these SCC meetings where we would talk about how the policy was going, teachers loved it, kids loved it. They were writing in the school newspaper about how wonderful it was that they didn't feel like they were constantly attached to their phone. Of course, this wasn't a bell-to-bell ban. It was just more rules about putting the phone away during class time, picking it up at the end of class, taking it to your next class. But there was just more structure. And in the end, the kids were really appreciative of it. And I think it improved things for them. So I'm happy about that, Bill. I think
Well,
it's
we've
great.
also seen how evil social media can get, right? Because you will be a lot crueler on a text message or a post than you will be in person. And that, I think, is instigating a lot of this vindictiveness and fight type stuff that's
Right. You're not going to
experienced
say
in
to
the
someone's
school.
face some horrible thing, but you might text it to them and like see what
Because
happens.
when you say it, you actually hear it.
Right.
Your body feels it.
And someone might overhear you, like a teacher, but you know, you can kind of covertly get away with it. And I
People
mean,
get a lot crueler. I mean, we see it
Yeah.
on our posts, right? I can guarantee you, in our comments section, if they were standing in front of me, they probably wouldn't say half the
Yeah,
stuff they're saying
right.
in the comments section. We see that all over the place. Where TikTok, the Instagram, Facebook, people are crueler when they're posting stuff than they are in person.
we also heard when I was serving on the SCC that students were texting each other in class and arranging fights. So because it's easier,
Oh, it's
right?
convenient. You have the
You just
schedule.
go,
and
hey,
you got
meet
your-
me over
yeah.
here, do this. And then they would like leave class to go to the bathroom and there would be a fight that breaks out. I mean, it's
Which is
It's kind
exactly
of
why the
predictable
Granite
when
School
you-
District had 50% drop in fights is because guess
because
what?
they're not sitting there
are locked
coordinating
up.
them. Right. Right. And they're not constantly engaged in whatever conversation, whether it's like, hi, how you doing? Or I hate you, you're a jerk, let's go fight in the hallway. You know, like you're in class, you're studying, you're with your teachers, you're not able to communicate with your friends. It shouldn't be constant
There's some friend
access.
that's instigating the fight between two other people and
Yeah.
saying, oh, he said this and she said this, and they're totally exaggerating and
Right.
beefing the whole thing up. And so by the time it gets to the end of the school day, it is
I mean, in these
completely out of
problems, there's
proportion.
always going to be fights. Like problems exist. It's just that I think cell phones magnified them all like 100-fold. So
Yeah, another thing I even think about with cell phones is I feel like I'm so grateful they didn't exist when I was in middle school, because you know how like self-conscious you are, you want your hair perfect, and I'm like, if I knew that anybody could like pull out a phone and take a picture of me unexpectedly at any minute, I think I would be living in constant like,
oh my God.
how do I look
Or the
now?"
girls' locker room. Like, well, I mean, it would be
Yes.
stressful.
Like I'm like, it's not good. We don't need them. So yeah, I feel like it's great.
So, Allie, you have this device problem, find stuff come in. How did that lead to forming a group?
Okay, so I went to Liz and asked her for some advice because I knew she had kind of, been trying to address just tech in schools a little bit for the, prior couple of years. And so she really helped me and was like, well, let's talk to, I think we went to an SCC meeting first, or like a meeting with the IT. And we had emailed a little bit with them. Anyways,
And you've been saying SCC, and I'm thinking State Central Committee. meeting.
Sorry,
sorry,
it's
school community council.
what
school
SCC is to
community
me.
council.
Yes.
Every school has a school community
Right.
council. It's made
Okay.
of administrators at the school, teachers at the school, and parents. In
I
the
was a member of the
community.
community council.
And they
of
meet
the high
about once a
school
month.
district.
They talk about issues. And in our school district, they're in charge of technology policies like cell phone policy, device policies.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So that is actually a point that became really frustrating, is because so by this point, Liz and I have probably spent like 100 hours investigating these devices and are very familiar with like, oh, this is what you can get to. This is what you can do. This is how our kids like are communicating with each other all day long on the Chromebook. And so when we brought this to this meeting where the school community council was, and when they ultimately voted on how, I mean, it was a small way of how to address it, but changing. So in our school district, there's 3 filtering levels. The default is the lowest filtering level. And so they were saying, well,
meaning the most accessible. Oh,
yeah,
the most accessibility.
Yeah,
because you're
so-
talking about elementary.
Oh, the
Yes.
default's the most accessible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the only switch they were making was voting on whether to raise elementary level to the highest restriction level, which to me that feels like a no-brainer. But it would make it harder for the teachers because sometimes the kids can't access the content that the teachers want them to access if they're on that highest restriction level.
Then don't put the content on the
A
internet.
100%.
Put it on your
Yeah.
put it on your
Yeah.
server.
They can't get to it. Maybe
Yeah.
it
Put it on
should
your
be.
server. Put it on
And
your own
also-
personal hard drive. They can download it.
Yes.
Problem
Right.
solved.
And is
right?
it part of the approved curriculum if your kid can't
Yes.
get to it? Your student
Why, as a teacher, are you saying
outside
put it on the internet?
curriculum. Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Anyway, so-
we
I
go
would be livid at that meeting.
well.
Oh, we
I-
were like so happy and pleasant the whole time. You should have seen us.
Oh man,
I'm not.
that is one meeting I feel like I in most. I think every other meeting I have like held my
Hallie's nicer than me. She
About were in this meeting.
maybe like
How many people come?
12 or so. So it was, like parents, some teachers, and then we had showed up, which we don't usually go because we're not on the SCC. We just showed up to.
and you can only vote if you're on the SCC. So any parent can go to the meeting, but you can only vote if you're a member of the SCC. And so that was crazy to me that they were voting, these parents who didn't have knowledge of what is capable on the devices, but they voted anyways. So they're making the vote. And they voted to keep it at the lowest restriction level because the teachers
Care
said
about
that
the
would
teacher.
be
They want
And the teachers are there, and they did not like that we were asking them to change the way things were happening or the way things were being used.
Maybe not then, but maybe you planted a seed.
I do
I
think some parents or some teachers are kind of coming around. They're realizing that there are some serious problems. I think the latest Canvas breach might, because it does expose teacher content and teacher personal information too. So, I mean, maybe this is another opportunity for them to say, maybe we don't have to use all the technology all the time.
Yeah. But so we did that. And then at that point, I kind of, well, both of us felt like we've done what we can try to do it within our immediate school. And,
But we didn't have a voice.
yeah. And so, so we did go to a board meeting and they, I mean, that was a little interesting too, because there was one member of the board who was really like in support of us. And then there was another board member who, it was so awesome. He had just graduated, I think the year before, from a local high school. And so it was so funny because as we're saying, like, no, you can like hack through the teacher monitoring software, and the other board members are like, no, you can't. He's like, oh yeah, you totally can.
He supported pretty much everything we were saying was happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so anyways, but then then they were like, well, we're going to dedicate some time over the summer to addressing this issue. But in the end, like their solution was, so we started this Instagram account called @GratedSchool. And we started exposing like what you can get to. And as you can imagine, the district didn't like that. And I can understand it paints them in a bad light. But at the same time, I'm like, but this is the reality. Like, this is what our kids can do all day.
And our
at
main
school.
goal wasn't to paint them in a bad light. It was to tell parents, this is what's going on. Because we knew parents didn't really understand. We were hearing all the time, oh, the school's filtering system has to be better than any filtering
Well,
system
that's
you have
what
at
I
home.
felt
Well, you assume
before
that,
I knew.
right?
Right,
They
I
have
assumed that.
35,000 devices and 35,000 students. Of course, they're going to have this taken care of. They would be stupid not to.
Yeah.
Well, it brings me back to we live in this prosperous land where we're just happy, fat. We have everything we need, and we're living good lives. And to parents, we fell into they're your, put my kids in school. You take care of them. I'll see them when I get home, and I trust that things are going to be great.
That was
And-
100% me.
And in fairness, I think teachers trusted that too, right? Like, we're getting these devices. I'm sure they're safe. They would never give me something.
Yeah, the majority of teachers are good people who just want to
Totally.
come and do their job.
Totally. And they're going to use them in the appropriate ways. But because they're individual devices, every kid's using them a little differently. Anyway, I don't mean to interrupt your story. Go ahead.
No. But so anyways, we start this Instagram account and we have this meeting. It was like 2 days before school ended last year. And we have this meeting with the district and where they're saying they're going to dedicate working on this issue. But I'm speaking with the superintendent or the assistant superintendent and the IT department. And the head of IT says to me, I think that this is working really well. Like when you post the things on Instagram, I can then go in and figure out where you've been and block it. But I just wish that you wouldn't post it to Instagram and just come tell me what those sites are and then I'll block it. And I'm like,
do you want to start paying her? I mean,
yeah,
I mean, she's doing your job, but
I also am like, but that's like, we're
That's
playing
not
whack-a-mole.
making everybody aware of the problem.
Yeah,
I think
well, they
that's what
don't
he's
want
saying.
them
Can you please
aware.
Quit making people aware. It's going to
Yes.
cause problems in my job.
But that's what I like just said to him too. Like, we're playing whack-a-mole though. Like, there will always be another site that the kids can get to that's unsafe. Like, this is not a proactive approach. So I don't support this approach. Like, it needs to be better.
And the point isn't this one site is a problem. The point is these devices, as they are completely unsafe, right? Like, it's just not working, and that doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah. So we have, I don't know if you guys know Senator Kirk Colmore, but he's actually in our neighborhood. And so I had gone to him and texted him a few of these like pictures that I easily got to, on a school device at the school. And he was willing to talk
You
with us.
said you texted them to.
Yeah, it was just like, look what I found on, yeah.
Allie was sending
Next time I
great
wait till I get
photos to the...
children, you don't want to get caught.
Did you CC his wife? I think you put his wife on there, actually. No, I'm not kidding. I feel like a lot of your messages we were careful.
I talked to his wife first. That's how I got his number too.
My brain's just going to, you have these people running
Yes.
these nefarious campaigns against people who are running
that's
for
so
office.
funny.
They could easily have been like she's
Yeah.
totally sexting with
Okay.
this couple over here.
And actually, the images weren't as explicit as some of that we
Yes,
found, right? They were
yes,
just like, look at what's kind of coming up.
But this was interesting too, and maybe I shouldn't mention this on here, but I'm going to, is that our school district, like that actually was really disheartening, is that we had gone and met with the superintendent. He had assured us that he was shocked by it, that he was going to correct this and let people know that me and Liz are telling the truth. And I start getting phone calls from people.
You're free to name names. If you want to call out the superintendent, this is the whole point of this thing.
He's not a superintendent anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't even do
You
anything.
can call people out. We have no fear here.
Well, maybe I'll get there. But anyways, I started getting phone calls from people because this now is becoming a district-wide issue, right? Because it's being addressed by the district. And because we started this Instagram account, people like that first initial video that we showed blew up. Like, it had a ton of views and people were talking about it. But anyways, I started having people call me that were in the district or part of like this, like a PTA at a school or part of the SCC. And they were saying to me, I just met, like, hi, I'm so-and-so from, this school. And I just want to verify, we had a meeting with our principal today and they said that you were not able to find, like, that everything that you're saying you've been able to find is not true, that it's a lie and that it's locked down.
That you were doing it on your personal account, or like it wasn't on a school account. Or
Yeah,
something.
yes. And that was so frustrating to me. And so I was like, so then I would say to these people, I will email you what I found, some of what I found, if I have your permission. And I am not lying. And so I one night stayed up until like 3 a.m. messaging everybody I could find at every school that was part of the SCC or the PTA, because they were going to be voting on this. And I'm like, they're voting on wrong information that nobody at the district level has cared to like correct, or even they've tried not to correct it. We have somebody who has been an ally with us, and she was at I can't remember if it was PTA or SCC meeting, and she said somebody from the district came into that meeting saying, report these two moms to the police if they send you any emails or texts of what they've been able to find.
Distribution of pornography.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I called the police and said, hi, could I be
go, girl.
arrested if in this situation? And I always made sure to blur out like
It was never full
Okay.
Yes.
full content, right? But it was enough to say this is available.
Well, some were that I could get. Yeah, but
I mean,
would
we got
blur
to
that.
full content,
Yes.
but we would,
Yes,
I
would
just
make
love
sure.
you that you would be proactive.
This
and
is
just
why
call
Allie's the
police
best.
and
She's
be
like, I'll just get to this.
Well, I kind of am like, that's messed up. You don't tell me that. I'm not going to stop there.
It's also hypocritical. Like, you have a problem with her sending that, and yet you're in the
Allowing it
administration of a
on.
district,
Yes.
and all these children have
It's
access
so funny.
to it.
It's like getting up in a school board meeting and pulling a book out of the school library
which we've
and
all seen.
reading it in
Yeah.
front of everybody and saying,
we've all
you
seen the
stop
moms
reading that.
doing
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't read it here. That's inappropriate.
So why is it in the library?
Yes. It's so
So it's so hypocritical.
Yes. So that. So
What
yes.
did the police say?
Oh,
How did they tell you how
Well,
you
first
could
of
do
all,
it?
it was so funny because he was like, "Well, every school should have a like resource police or like a police officer assigned to them. Have you talked to him? Because your school should have filtering software." I'm like, I know it's crazy. I know.
Yeah, we know.
But just tell me, can I be arrested? He was like, well, are you like blurring the images? And I said, yes. He said, no, you could not. And like, isn't that backwards? Like, aren't they the ones? I'm like, thank you. Like, this is recorded, right? So anyways, I ended up sending an email that night, including the lady from the district that was on it, saying like, I mean, this is like so hypocritical. You are telling people to turn us into the police for you are providing and not letting parents know that this is accessible. Like, what? We're being gaslit, Liz.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Anyway, so that was nuts and frustrating. And then I feel like for me, that kind of was like, I'm done trying to, I can't trust you at the district level. And that's when we started working more with Kirk. He told us to reach out to Corinne. So then we just messaged Corinne on Instagram, met with her and started working on policy, started working with Kirk and then Doug Fiafia.
Ariel DeFay was already kind of working on a bill that was related. So we advised a lot on that.
Yeah. And then through that, Corinne and Melissa McKay felt like we should create a policy center that is directly focused on child safety.
Melissa McKay.
She wrote the App Store Accountability Act, and she's great. Yeah. So anyways, so that's how the Child First Policy Center came to be. And so it was like a really amazing experience for us to learn that, you know, you can go and
I
help
was following G-rated schools, and I didn't even realize that it was like a local-based thing.
Okay, yes, yeah. But I do want to say, too, something that I have continued to learn, and especially through legislation, is it really, I think, I kind of back to what you were talking about with you know, these ideologies or ideas being taught. I think prior to this experience for me, I really did just feel like, no, like our kids go to school and for sure they learn the truth and for sure they're safe. Like, that's crazy. They're not learning anything that's not good. But as I've gone through this process and learned there are bad actors behind the scenes, and I'm not going to say that like everybody that works at Google is bad, but I find it incredibly concerning that these major companies and these big tech companies control so much of what the schools look like, what the government looks like. It's really concerning to me. And they can kind of like, they back, was it Meta Meta that was a big funder of the PTA, like national PTA for a long time. I think they barely pulled out because of so many people being upset. But that is concerning to me because it infiltrates all the way down, right? And what they want, like they control it.
I kind of thought it was brilliant for Trump to bring in whatever his name is from Meta, because then you bring him to see and be with everybody else that's pointing out those things and maybe change a perspective of how you're conducting business rather than you're the enemy, we're going to go after you. Bring them in, make them part of it, because in basis, I think all humans are good,
Yeah.
you know, and we want to do, like we say, we've got, do all the employees at Google go there nefarious trying to get to your kids?
Yeah.
No, but some of them do. And the rest of the employees are like, no, we're a good company. I eat lunch with these people.
Right.
The parents know most of the people in their community who are the principal and the teachers. They
Right.
know them. We go to church with them. Our kids play volleyball together, blah, blah.
Right.
And we know that those people aren't inherently evil people. Just like up at the legislature,
Yeah.
you know, you talk to these people and they're not all horrible people.
100%.
But they get caught up doing some things because they're also hobnobbing with people who make
Yeah.
evil things look okay or good.
Well, and I think that's where you easily blur the line, right? Like I think exactly, like I feel like, no, these people go to work and think, how can I maximize profit for Google or whatever?
And you should be trying to do the best.
Totally.
business
It's
for
how
your
we do
company.
it. But it comes at a price for like of our kids, right? And we can now prove that it's harmful and that it's harming learning. And so that's where, you know, Liz and I and Child First Policy Center feels like it's very important that we have some guardrails around how tech is used and making sure that it actually is educational if it's going to be used and that it's safe. So our big three things are that it's safe, that it's legal, and that it's effective. And if it's none of those, then or not all three of those, then it shouldn't be in the classroom.
Have you had any great successes yet?
Yes. So this last legislative session, we helped pass two bills. One was written by Ariel DeFay, so she was the sponsor. It's called the Balance Act, and that passed. It will. Schools have about a year to get feedback from the public, meaning parents, teachers, everyone in their district, and basically it sets parameters around how devices will be used at school. And that is kind of shocking that there really has not been any parameters since 2020, like zero. So there is a model built into the policy, but then schools can amend that. So they can change it if they live in a rural area and certain things won't work for them, they can work with it. But we would like it to be as close as possible to the model, which says no devices, kindergarten through third grade. So right now, every student, in most school districts, every student has a device, even if they don't bring it home. It's their device and it's with them at school and they can use it. So the whole class could be on a device at one time. But K through 3, no devices. So there may be a computer lab. They may go occasionally to use that computer lab. And then 4th through either 5th or 6th, whatever elementary school is, then they still computer lab. They use it very intentionally. They may have devices in the classroom on a cart that the teacher can use, but it's very structured. So right now, that's different than right now, which is because each student has a device, what we're finding is very often they might use it for structured learning. And then the teacher says, okay, we're done. When you finish early, that's okay. Just do some educational app on your device, right? And there's a number of them. My son had 24 the last time I checked. And like Allie said, they're educational. They're just games. They're not rigorous or something like that. I would much, much rather my son was reading a book, drawing a picture, talking to his neighbor. Like any of those things would be better, in my opinion. Anyway, so the model says 4 through 6, they can be available, but it's very structured, no free time, and there's no one-to-one mandate, which there was a one-to-one mandate in certain districts. And then middle school, every student gets a device, but it does not go home with them. It stays at school. And then in high school, everyone gets a device and it default goes home with them, but a parent can opt out to keep that device at school. So it just gives more parents more choices how they want that device to work for them. It doesn't change a whole lot. It overall says, make the time on the devices structured and important to the learning. There's not a lot of just free time and whatever, but it doesn't change internet connectivity or anything like that. It's very
Focuses on the hardware.
So will we be
on the
trying
hardware.
to get to second base on that?
Yeah, so that's where the second bill is. I don't know, Allie, if you want to. This is the one we were more deeply involved in, and Kurt Colomore was the sponsor, and Doug Fiafia was the House sponsor.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You got it.
So it started as a bill that said, we're going to evaluate every bit of software that gets into the school before it's in front of students to be safe, legal, and effective. And those three things, we haven't even gotten into like all of those because what we've mostly talked about is the safety features. What can kids get to? But there's a lot of legal issues with data collection and effectiveness. There's a lot of data because of the amount of time kids have been on devices now in school that show that it is not actually helping them learn. And the time they're spending on those devices is not the same as writing by hand, reading from a book, forming some conceptual foundations that help them. So the SAFE Act intended to really check that software before it gets into school and to make sure that it is safe, legal, effective, has to pass certain markers. We met a lot of pushback, not from legislators. We had legislators on board. The minute we would talk to them about this, and Democrat, Republican, sometimes we'd get a little push, but once we explained to them the issue, they say, of course, it needs to be safe, legal, effective. They were awesome. As soon as we could see that we had the votes, other lobbyists who work for other organizations who may not want this also saw we were getting the votes, and we started getting a lot of pushback. In the end, all their efforts were not working, except somehow magically overnight, the fiscal note, or the amount of money that it would cost to enact this bill, grew. How much did it grow by? I can't remember the amount of money.
So it started at 84,000 and went to 2.4 million.
Yeah.
This is 2 days before the session is ending. So
we don't have all that much time to like get this bill going. So all of a sudden the fiscal note goes huge. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but right about that time, the state had announced that they needed to cut the education budget.
So did they explain how that went up like that?
I don't know.
Or is someone just throwing out numbers to throw it up?
We have suspicions of what happened, which is basically because there's a whole committee that decides how much would this proposed bill actually cost, right? And so they kind of come up with numbers, but then your bill goes through all these amendments and it changes. And I think someone from some lobbyist group probably took that back to the fiscal committee and said, you need to reevaluate this. It's going to cost, kind of talk them through. It's going to cost you more. And so that's what ultimately started to affect if our bill was going to pass or not whether or not it was a good bill, and whether or not all the legislators almost unanimously could agree that this was great. It was that it was going to cost money
for superintendency's budget and move that over.
I wouldn't complain about that.
Wouldn't either.
But
sure.
so in the end, this is where Corinne Johnson was amazing, because she has worked in legislation before as a civil lobbyist, right? She's just a person up there. And so she was able to talk to different people she's built relationships with and kind of explain the situation. We were able to bring the fiscal note down. It still couldn't pass. I don't remember what we got it.
We brought it down to 150,000 ongoing. So every year, $150,000 will be dedicated to these efforts.
But the bill completely changed. So instead of being a law that the software has to be safe, legal, and effective, it is now a study. And so that means that the USBE, which is the Utah State Board of Education, they have a year to study, or is it 2 years? I feel like these numbers keep changing, and it was
it's a year, but it's hard because of how the legislation session doesn't start till January, right? But the school year starts
in July, technically.
So it's like it might actually be more like 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they have a period of time to conduct their own study and get their own data about how analog learning, which is paper, pencil, reading from books, and technical learning or digital learning, how they compare to each other. And we've got some awesome Utah State Board of Education board members who are already on top of this. They're looking at doing a analog math versus digital math, which I'm so excited for, because I have a lot of students, like my own children, who have been using digital math. And I mean, other parents will know what I'm talking about. Have you ever tried to graph on a computer with your like Chromebook mouse, because you don't have a mouse, it's like your fingers. Oh, it's just the most horrible thing. And they can cheat super easy. Anyway, so it's going to be a study. And then we're really hopeful that at the end, we'll have a lot of really good data to back up a law or a bill that will do exactly what we were intending to do.
Yeah.
So,
but
anything else I'm missing? I feel like there was a lot.
But see, Liz is like so diplomatic, and I'm like, yeah, so that's why we need to watch out for big tech, because see, they come in and they are going to undermine all our efforts and everything we're trying to do. And it's crazy to me. Like, it is wild to me that you can have truly like unanimous support and still have a bill maybe not pass because somebody goes and influences it. And
They were so smart though, because they came at first after all sorts of things within the bill, trying to change things. Well, you got to add this word, and we can't. Like, one of the things that is in the bill is we say there cannot be any advertising done to our students, meaning you can't advertise through your software anything to my student, right? My kid's not at
fair
school.
to me.
yeah,
So
don't
easy. So
worry,
they
there's
added a
like
word.
sex ads on the kids' Chromebooks.
So we said no advertising, and somehow it like squeaked in there an amendment that changed it to no targeted advertising.
Because hold on, do you want to know what? Because that's where they make so much of their revenue is through the targeted ads. That was the reason. So we would no longer be able to supply these products to you at this great price if we don't do targeted advertising.
But how interesting that they were not okay with the term advertising, which is a much bigger term. But they said, okay, fine, if you want to make it no targeted advertising. So they tried to slip the word in. We had an awesome representative who was aware of how nitpicky this bill was getting.
Yeah.
Her name's Nicolene Peck. And on the floor, last second, they were about to make a vote. And she stood up and said, I need to make an amendment. And she struck the word targeted. So it is still advertising and not specific to targeted.
So that
And
is
all the legislators voted. And I think that one had almost unanimous support. Anyway,
Yeah.
So-
I think there was one person that it didn't.
it was so interesting. We learned a lot. And they just, the tech companies, I mean, we actually really like the lobbyists that we dealt with. We dealt with lobbyists from Google, 3 of them from Apple, a few different AI companies. And for the most part, they're just like nice, great people.
for sure. But we
And like
don't
you're saying,
agree.
everyone's good, right? And they also see what they're doing, which is they're preserving jobs and the bottom line of a really effective company. I use Google, right? Like it has its advantages for sure. And I think my kids will use it. Like it's a great tool. But we learned a lot about like their strategy going into legislation, because first it was trying to pare down the bill to be better for them. And then when that wasn't going to work, go for the system, go for the money.
And they waited
If we
till
can't
the
get
very
funding,
last
the very last
because
minute.
they knew that we couldn't. By that second day, you can't make any like a money change to a bill any longer. So once we got it down to 150 that day,
That was it.
That was it. And but yeah, so it was really interesting. It was really interesting for us to see like the loopholes too that they can try to create for themselves. Because if they do advertising versus or targeted advertising versus advertising, right? Like they could probably find a loophole with it just being more broad with advertising versus targeted, right? Like policy is a crazy world.
Shouldn't it be a whole community, though, of companies and parents and teachers all with the same purpose of protecting children?
That would be ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're in there to protect the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
That's all they're caring about. And that's their fiduciary responsibilities to their own bottom line, to their own shareholders. And they're not in it for the parents. It's up to somebody else to have those guard lines in there. And I kind of see this thing going on because you guys are mentioning, they're good people. These are all good people. And I hate to say it, but there's a lot of people vote because, he's such a good person.
Yeah.
He's such a nice person. My dad was horrible at this. Cox is such a nice guy. I'm like, he's horrible. It took me months to convince him otherwise. And he hated Trump. And then I finally started showing him, look at the policies. He finally started looking past the CBS News and the nightly news and 60 Minutes that he's been watching since he was a kid. And his nostalgia was there because that's what he grew up doing with his parents. And I'm like, it's not the same anymore. And it just doesn't dawn on him. Mm-hmm. And I get people calling me all the time that say, well, should I vote for this legislator or that legislator? But there's such good policies and look at what they've done. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of legislators out there that 80% of what they do is great. I love what they're doing, but they always kill you in that 25% that is completely woke, completely left, pro SB 54 or some other hidden agendas in there.
Or just big government, more government control.
More government, bigger government, or they're getting bought out somehow, or some lobbyists influence them too much. I'm like, it's that 20-25% is going to bite you in the butt every single time, which is why Celeste Malloy is having such problems right now, which is why more is having such problems right now is because they're such good people, but there's that little bit that they keep voting for that's not good. It's going to destroy the state of Utah, which is why we got Carrie Ann Lisby running and Phil Lyman running and others that are going to do a little bit better of a job, and hopefully they get in. But it's the same thing when it comes down to our school districts. We're not saying that every teacher's bad or every superintendent's bad. It's these little pepper flakes in there, right? It's a second grade teacher, or it's that one fourth grade teacher that's LGBTQ at home and has a certain agenda, or it's that one administrator at the school district or three administrators of the school district become buddies, or it's the superintendent's got hired in that one school district and is hiring according to what he feels is best. It's these little peppered things in there that create the very, very bad scenario. We see that in the police force too. It's one or two police officers that are racist or something like that that's causing a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And as parents, we got to look and analyze that and be a little more active and kind of root out the one person who is saying the right things when they're in public and being that politician that says the right things to keep themselves in power, to keep themselves in office, but we're not paying attention to what they're doing. And it's the actions that speak louder volumes. It's Trump that is trying to fight fire with fire when he's out there on his Instagram and his Truth Social ads and stuff like that, and fighting fire with fire, because if he doesn't, he's going to get completely railroaded. And then people get mad at that, but I'm like, look at what he's doing is probably the best thing this country's ever experienced. Or it's people look at Cox and say, well, he did so good with the Charlie Kirk thing. I'm like, yeah, he had great speeches with the Charlie Kirk thing. It was awesome stuff, but there's so much stuff behind the scenes that's just not good.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so grateful. I think that this is huge, is that Utah is still they really value parental rights. And so I think that is so important that we hold on to that here in Utah, because when it comes to the schools and what is allowed in the schools, parents actually do have the final say of no, I'm not going to allow my kid to do that, or
use that law where they can opt out, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And the district may not, or the school may not make it easy, but you can. There are states in the country that they don't have that, And so I do think it's really important that we hold on to those rights that we have and try to protect them.
There's another good podcast we did with Stephanie Grecius, and everybody should watch the one with Corinne Johnson. You should go way back and watch the one with Stephanie Grecius, because we really kind of dialed in. I actually pulled in the full document from the Oregon State Board of Education of what they allow, and we went through their document on their website page by page in that and compared it to Utah. And it is, I'm not going to say it, but it is crazy what they're doing up in Oregon.
Yeah.
So go back and watch the 70 Grecius one. But my whole point to this is you're going to get a lot of people that say, oh, she's so nice, she's so good, she's the parent-teacher conferences, she's so inviting. And I'm like, great. So they're saying the right things. What are they doing in the classroom? And one of the things we talked about with Stephanie Grecius is that they eliminated the ability, and Trevor Lee also mentioned it, the ability for them to have any type of memorability in the classroom other than the United States flag, right? It wasn't just that they couldn't hang the LGBTQ flag or any of these other, the Black Lives Matter flag or anything like that. They can't even have a pen. They can't have pencils up on their desk that have anything other than that pulls out anything, right? Because you can have such a good person.
Rainbow stripes and then the shirts, is that okay? Because I do see some of them.
But that's the whole point, is they can be really nice people, but then they still try to, they can't help themselves, slip in a little bit of agenda here, a little bit of agenda there. And you can do that with tech companies. You can do that with minority issues like the LGBTQ thing, like the Black Lives Matter, like the DEI issues, where they just can't help themselves. But
yeah,
I've got to slip a little bit of it in there. I think this is more important. I think you guys are going the wrong direction. And they have all the best intentions because they really think us conservatives are going the wrong direction, right? And so they still try to, I know your parents are saying this, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily trust it.
Yeah.
I feel like you bring up something that is kind of lost today, which is like you can really like someone and also really disagree with them. And the opposite is also true, that you can really dislike someone as a person, right? But also think like, wow, you're doing some pretty good stuff. And I feel like we have a hard time with that today. But when we were up on the Hill during this last legislative session, Allie and I were really lucky. We got to meet with lots of senators, representatives, which, I mean, if you don't know, like, you have access to these people. If you care about something, go talk to them. And if you're a parent or just, a citizen, they want to hear from you.
You are their boss.
You are their boss. And they are so welcoming to what you have to say, especially if you're coming in as we call ourselves civil or civic law. We are civil also.
We call ourselves.
Yeah.
But civic lobbyists, we're not getting paid to do this. We just come because we care about this issue. But I was really impressed with, through all of these conversations, so many people would meet and talk to us, especially from, maybe they were someone who we thought they were really going to disagree with us. And they did. But they'd come and talk to us. We'd sit down with them. We'd have this long discussion. And it's fine that they disagree. They're not going to vote for our bill in the committee or whatever. And we just walk away and we see each other later in the hall and hello, it's really interesting to me that we've lost this. And I think it's too bad because that is the American dialogue. I don't agree with you, but I feel this way and we can still talk about it. I can respect that that's your opinion. Yeah.
Most of those.
Totally agree.
But it was awesome for us to see that firsthand, that in all these representatives and senators, that's kind of what they practice every day. They like each other for the most part. They disagree fiercely on issues, and they are like working together on other issues. It's kind of inspiring.
We've seen the same thing. We remotely have done our podcast up at the legislature in a senator's office who, I maybe not apprehensive, but I come in and I'll tell you right, just like, I don't like, the bill he passed. I don't agree with this.
How's this going to go?
But then when we meet them and where they came from and the hue in them, I'm like, oh, I just love him.
Yeah.
I'm still not happy with
Yeah.
Totally.
this, but I like them.
Yeah.
I totally
And then
agree.
they recognize us at events and wave at us.
Right.
And yeah.
I do think it's interesting too, as you get to know somebody, you begin to maybe understand. Like I have a friend who I feel like is more like liberal in how she votes than maybe I would be, but understanding how she grew up, and she really felt like a lack of safety and security, like in her home and in her family. And I think that really drives her to push for these.
So you understand
community.
at least where she's coming
Yes,
from.
like, no, I
even if
want
you
there
don't
to be
agree.
involvement so that if a child isn't safe, right? And so, yes, even though I might think, as a blanket, I wouldn't vote for that. But I can see why you
And
personally
the danger is the people that, you were friends or family, and we can't even discuss those things in order to be able to be with each other. We
Yeah.
just don't discuss those things. And like you said, that's not the American way.
Yeah.
right.
So how many members do you have now? How many people are involved?
I'd have to count off my fingers. We're a small group. Child First Policy Center. I think there are maybe 7 or 8 of us that actually work. Allie's on the board. I'm an advisor, so we kind of have different roles. But it's a small group of parents
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
And part of that is how do people get involved? I mean, how do parents kind of get involved? You accepting more membership? Are you trying to make it bigger?
Yeah, it's not
what's your
like
goal?
a place that people can join. We're just a group trying to support good bills around technology, and as those apply at school, but also, maybe in a greater sense.
Well, what if somebody's like in Idaho and they're having trouble with something and they want to...
Were you going to say the
No,
community?
go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so we started a community call recently that we do every Monday at noon, Mountain Standard Time. Anybody can join. The link is on our Instagram, or you can go to Child First policy.com and find the link there. But where people can come and just ask questions or bounce ideas, around. We've had a Utah State School Board member join and give us some tips for how to make an effective public comment, things you should not do or or things to do. And so yeah, that's like one way that people, because I do think it's important that people feel like we know that many people are feeling this frustration with how the devices are showing up in school. And so that's a great way that people can connect with us.
Yeah, and this summer, Ingrid, we are hosting we have plans. It is not all finalized, but we know that a lot of states are dealing with this same issue. And there are a lot of parents, just like Allie and I were, trying to get some traction, trying to see some movement. And if we hadn't happened to be connected to the right people here in Utah, we wouldn't have been able to do that. People who had already moved policy. And so we are training people from different states. We have the ability to bring them out here, and we're going to train them on how do you move a bill with 20 parents? How do you talk to your legislators? What is the legislative process? What are your rights under, federal law to enact certain things? So it's going to be really cool because we see this as, that's great if we have success here in Utah, but we need success everywhere because this is a national problem. And then we can support each other as states. I mean, LA Unified School District just passed a I don't know what you call it. It's not a law in a school district, but they're going to cut back on devices. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but
the second largest school district in the country.
It's huge. And that's a huge support to all of us here, even though this is a different state and a whole different
Which
set
is
of
shocking
things.
in such a
It's right. They don't share a lot in common with us when you talk about politics, but this is a super bipartisan issue.
It should be.
Right. This isn't about really conservative or liberal ideals. It's like our kids are suffering in every way imaginable, and it's made worse by the one-to-one devices at school. And it's, like I said, we have a lot of data to back that up now, so I think that's helpful. So LA's done that. What other states? I feel like every day I hear about a new state having done something similar.
Was it North Carolina that they had a school district there that did something similar?
Yeah.
Like Missouri, Tennessee.
Yeah, we talked to people in Michigan, Vermont.
Yeah, I mean, we have people from nearly every state reach out to us saying like, this is such an issue. We want to
do something similar. So we're going to hopefully train them to try to be effective in their state. They can use some of the bills that have worked here or passed here, adjust them and amend them, to work in their own state. Because that is just every state and every school district that can do it better is a support to each other.
When you get that plan, will you let us know and then we can share that on
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think our first summit will be pretty small because we want to keep it. We're learning what we're doing. Right. Yes. But yeah, we'll let you know about that.
So you're getting more and more popular out there. So I'm sure you got parents calling you from other school districts around the state. Mm-hmm. What are some of the not so good stuff that you're hearing that you're starting to work on from other places, not just your own school district? What are some of the big issues that you're seeing that's getting reported back to you?
I think they're pretty much very consistent, like everywhere, just the...
Well, name some places you're hearing about specifically so people know that it's more than just Salt Lake Valley.
Oh, yeah. We've got like Washington County, down in, like St. George.
Alpine School District in Utah County. I want to be fair. Like, I think the school district is working with the mom that we've been talking to there about the access at which students get a Gmail account, some other things like that. So
yeah, Davis County, but Corinne is talks a lot with them
because she lives in that area, so she knows a lot about that.
We really have talked to just not in Utah, but like Vegas. Somebody from Vegas recently reached out. Mm-hmm. But I do think the issue is primarily the same, like the accessibility. A parent realizes that their kid has been looking at porn on their Chromebook for years and they had no idea, or that they're just gaming all day, or they'll bring the Chromebook home and be watching YouTube while they thought they were doing homework,
Have you had any instances of outsiders accessing the child through those gaming systems and adults conversing with children?
I'm not aware of that. Are you aware of anything like that, Allie?
I hope, because I know there's chat rooms within those games.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know of like a personal experience, but that is one thing that I was like able to access and I put on our Instagram account was like, I got into a game and there were tons of different chat groups that were like, crazy. Like you talk about
child predators on there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I mean, I'm like, it's wild that like the crazy are giving the crazy advice, right? Like these are like 10-year-olds
Because
that
for
are
the parent or the administrator that's saying, well, I'm okay with my child going out to these places, but it's like they can also come in and have access to your child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe you don't want them learning conservative values. I
Right.
mean,
Right. Whatever it is.
whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, so the most common thing I probably hear is that kids are accessing YouTube and watching a lot of YouTube videos at school, in class with their teacher there.
With our taxpayer dollars paying for all
Yes.
that.
And these are sometimes educational, right? Or like educational is kind of a broad term. Like if you're learning to make sushi, which one of my children was, sure, that's educational, but he was in an English class. That's not what you're doing in English
Yes,
class.
and you can travel to another country on YouTube and go along with
Right,
the
but that's
person.
not the point. Anyway, so YouTube is a big one, and there's been numbers not from Utah, but about like I think one child, the mom looked into it and found that he had been watching 13.
he had watched 310,000 YouTube videos.
In like 4 months or something.
I think it was 3 months, but
Oh,
yes,
wow.
and
At school.
during school,
So
like
his
during
brain
school
is
time.
mush now.
Yeah, pretty
He's
much.
doing nothing.
But
Yes.
YouTube. Yeah.
But that and like I don't know.
They probably got the Bluetooth iPods in.
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're just listening
Yeah.
to it.
And again,
teacher
like-
doesn't even know.
As we say this, I know parents hearing this for the first time might be like so enraged that this could happen in a classroom. And I know it's easy to put your anger like on a teacher. And I actually feel like there is some responsibility there for sure. This is their classroom and how they use it. But also these are kids who are, you might have 30 kids in a class and they're all on an individual device. How do you manage that? How do you manage that? At some point, I think any teacher, even the best intentioned teacher, is just going to go, fine, do whatever it is you're doing. I'm going to teach the other 25 kids who are actually with me right now, So I think it's a really, really difficult task for these
Well, I think
teachers.
the teachers should be doing that because the responsibility should be back on the parents, right? The
Right.
parents, you need to get your kid to where he listens in class. I mean, parents are in charge of discipline.
Totally.
I'm just here to teach, right? I'm not here to discipline your child. I'm not here to do anything like that.
Right.
But at the same time, as a school district, we should be putting things in front of kids that causes the problem, right? Which is, again,
Yeah.
let the parents discipline, let parents control the internet access, let them control what they have access to or how much they have access to. The
And that's-
school district shouldn't have anything even remotely close to that. They should be so pulled back that literally all they're doing is, we are just educating. That is it.
And that's the key, you're right, because right now parents really do not have that ability. Like I bought monitoring software, a subscription, so I could watch my kids' phones. Well, I tried to add it to my daughter's Chromebook, her school Chromebook. This was years ago because it had that capability. And I thought, oh, yeah, sure, we'll use that. Well, you can't add any outside monitoring software.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I'm
also-
sure that the kids could get you the data sheet that tells you how to get past the firewall.
Oh, for sure. Like
to load it.
even then, right? Like nothing, like everything can be got around eventually. But
But legally, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
yeah, I just couldn't. Like I'm removed from that situation as a parent. They give my kid a device. Never am I asked for my consent. Never once. I signed a user agreement in order to register my child for school. I couldn't register them until I signed a user agreement, which was really a liability agreement that said, we're not liable as a school if your child damages the device or gets into anything inappropriate. In fact, you're in trouble because your student can't sign this contract, but you can. So parents are really, their hands are tied. I don't know what my kid's doing for 7 hours a day at school on an internet connected device. I hope he's trying to do the right stuff. I hope she's trying to do the right stuff. But I don't know, right? And they're learning things.
We need to find some legislators who are literally going to put forth a bill that says we are removing
Oh,
browsers from all school supply products.
oh, I can't. There were actually a number of reps who we met with who said, your bills aren't strong enough. We need stronger bills. And we said, yeah, we agree. That would be ideal. But I also feel like
have
we
the
have to
votes.
take,
Yeah. It is so interesting how it's like just such an incremental process, right? Like you can only pass what people are ready for.
Why? That's crazy to me. Why don't you have the votes? I mean, that's common sense. Just eliminate the browser. I mean,
right.
solves the problem.
I think there's a lot of people to keep happy, right? They want to keep parents happy, but then there are also teachers who feel very threatened by a law that says this is how you're supposed to use your computer at school instead of just as a teacher, you decide the
But
best
as
way
a
to use
teacher,
your
you have to actually put some effort into preparing your lessons for the day or something.
I don't know. Like I think we talked to a lot of people who were legislators and teachers, and some teachers, who weren't legislators. And it's interesting because I think there was a lot of misinformation about what the bills actually were. And as we got into it and they saw that, oh, I can still use a device, we can still have certain software, whether or not that's a great thing, in my opinion.
That's right.
But the bill as it's written, and I think there was some misinformation being told about the bills because
Well, teachers are also a little damaged from being given all these mandates without funding.
Totally.
and
Yes,
without
I
a
feel
manual.
so bad.
And if it
I
creates
don't
more
blame
work
them
for them.
always being suspicious. I'm like,
Totally.
what?
Yeah.
You're going to
Yes.
tell me one more thing I need to do?
Yes, and that is what these bills are saying, and it's changing things. Like, it wasn't that long ago we went from analog books, paper, pencils. COVID happens, now you're all on devices. It took that like crisis and emergency to make this huge change we would have never made like that. And then we did, and now we're saying pull them back. And we heard those exact words in a board meeting at kind of the beginning of this process about a year ago this time. A veteran board member who'd probably been there 10 or 12 years said, I cannot believe what you're asking us to do. She said, we have been spending 15 years to get to one-to-one devices in our school district, and we got it. And now you're telling us we should pull them back.
That would be going back.
Well, talk to
That would be
Norway.
going back. Well, and I thought, what institution or organization or business makes plans around technology for 15 years? You don't do that because technology is changing way faster than that. And I'm sorry that was your goal for 15 years, but we know now it's not working because you've been experimenting on our kids for
Just
6
because
years.
your heart, sweat, and tears are in it doesn't mean it's the
Yeah,
right thing.
Right.
totally. And then and we're showing you this is a bad move.
As a business owner, I mean, I put a lot of heart,
Yes,
sweat, and
you
tears
do
into
it
a
all
lot
the
of things
time.
that did not work. I ended up completely switching
You
it out.
pivot all the time.
Pivot.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to, or you fail, right?
And now we have like the data to show that it's
Totally.
not working. And I don't know, too, like I feel like this is something we hear a lot.
Get
as
off your
well.
emotional connection to this
Yes.
thing and do what's right for the
Yes.
kid.
Right.
But
And those
like-
people should not be reelected to the board. If they're stuck on a 15-year-old goal,
Yeah.
Just because
like,
they're
forget
emotionally
it.
connected to it,
Yeah,
then you
like,
shouldn't be
yeah.
there.
just move on. Yeah.
But I feel like this is something that we hear too a lot is that like, and we feel like this, like our kids, they are losing or have not developed basic skills of like good handwriting. And that like, that's crazy. And I think lots of people are recognizing that, or how to address a letter or send a postcard, right?
And an argument we hear for that is people say, well, in the future, are kids going to be writing? Are they going to write cursive? Are they going to do these things? And again, that comes back to my question. What is the point of education? Are we really just preparing a bunch of workers to work? I don't think that's what we're doing. We're preparing people to think. And that's what I want out of education. If that is not going to be what public education is, then my kids should not be in public education. And if that's really where it's headed, then I need to know that now.
Yeah, we're not here to teach sheep, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting in a line so you can find a job somewhere. We should be teaching the next innovators, the next entrepreneur,
Right.
the next Elon Musk, right?
A great point. This guy who's our awesome friend now, Jared Cooney Horvath, he's a neuroscientist. He used to be a teacher. He wrote a book called The Digital Delusion. We actually had him come to Utah to introduce our bills in January. And he's such a great advocate. But he brings up that point that because technology is constantly changing, if I learned in high school how to burn a CD, which I didn't because they wouldn't have wasted my time in high school doing that. But if I had learned to do that, that would be absolutely obsolete information now. So if we keep teaching to tools in a broad general education, which is what K through 12 should be, then we're teaching obsolete information that isn't helping our kids. Now, when our kids start getting into technical degrees or technical skills, yeah, we want to teach those tools. Those are helpful. They can specialize. And those can be useful and helpful. But if we're trying to teach broad general understanding and critical thinking, teaching the tools is a waste of time. And like I said before, because AI is moving quicker than any other technology has, and things are just moving so fast, that's probably more true now than it's ever been. Like what we're teaching, I'm actually glad my kids learned some things about how a computer works and things like that, because that's the people who are going to be inventing and changing and being innovative. My husband actually works in tech, ran a software business for a long time, understands enough about coding. We have some technological people in my family who deal a lot with that stuff. And it's interesting because and this is true in, Mark Zuckerberg and other tech executives who are much bigger than anyone I know, they don't send their kids to schools where technology is used like they are in public school. They send them to Montessori schools. They send them to Waldorf academies. They get private tutors because they want them learning foundational skills that create innovators and creative thinkers. And we're not creating those. We are stifling those things.
Well, we're creating people that just get in line, right?
Yeah.
Just get in line, become robots out in the field, and we're not, the innovation is gone. But I think a lot of people think that that should be the goal, right? Because there's goals out there to try to just make everybody the same, to have equity and inclusion, right? And just make everybody the same. And that's stifling the entire market. It's stifling the minority just as it is anybody else.
It's also boring for kids. Like our kids are getting really bored.
Which is why they're not doing so well in classrooms, right?
That's why they don't want to be there.
And then they say, well, we got to get them more involved. Let's gamify everything. Instead of intriguing their intellect with science and technology and math and really getting them critically thinking and just wondering and asking questions, why this, why that, because that's why we grew up. Why mom? And mom's got tired of it. Now everything's like gamified. Let's just glue you even more to a screen like you're not already glued to it enough.
Where there are things that are fun that a child can do outside of gaming that will be more fulfilling to them. None of my children are in any, or grandchildren are in any traditional public school. One's in a charter school, the other's in a private school, and the other family is homeschooling.
That's awesome.
But 2 of them participate in those entrepreneurial fairs.
Oh, cool.
And I find it fascinating, especially where my daughter that homeschools says, we're told you do not help them the first time. You don't help them at all. So the first time they're probably going to fail, but they're going to learn from that. Imagine that, allowing a child to fail. And so they have to develop a product. And so, yes, for example, I was fascinated with the first time, I think she was 5, and she had 2 older siblings. She decided she wanted to 3D print swords because she had seen the glow-in-the-dark swords at a 4th of July thing.
Oh, cute.
And she was thinking she wanted one, and her parents were like, well, tomorrow those glow sticks that are part of this blow-up thing are just going to be dead. You pay $25 for that, and it's only good for one night. So she wants 3D printed swords. She does one. They only had 2 types of filament in their home, glow in the dark and a rainbow type. So she does them in both, and they're telescoping.
Okay.
So when it's done, it's down into a hockey puck.
That's really
So
fun.
could she 3D print that herself? Not really, but she's working with the mom to do that. The other 2, her a little bit older, one wanted to do, which I thought was a great idea, chips, guac, and salsa. I would buy that at a little fair.
Yeah.
However, she was putting them in the cooler because she knows I have to keep those cold so people just see a clamshell of chips.
Oh.
The other son, he did 3D printed fidgets, the thing that keeps folding and folding infinity. And so I show up kind of late towards the end of they were 2 back to back, but I show up and, the one's shy about marketing her product, and she's written her product in pen on a poster board. And I'm like, nobody's going to see that. And mom's like, we don't
Help her. Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm grandma. I'm not part of that. So I'm like, so by the time they see that, honey, they're not going to be here. I gave her some advice and things, and that if I saw fresh guac somewhere, I am paying $8 for that. The 5-year-old is rolling on the ground chasing butterflies, feet up in the air. And I'm like, how did you do? And she's like, I'm sold out. I'm like, you are? She has marketed her swords at like $18. Huge profit margin. She sold out rolling on the ground. She's happy as can be because she was out there like with her sword,
She was marketing that. Yeah.
Yes. And then the other kids, maybe a little disappointed she made more money, but like each one learned something, whether they failed or they're succeeding. And I was so jealous that my kids didn't experience that in the public school.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we thought that gamified learning meant we were bringing education to the kids. They love games. They'll love learning this way. But I think what we've found is that when you gamify learning, the reward becomes the game. Oh, I passed through the level. I got the stars. That's the reward. Instead of the reward being what a lot of us experienced in a more traditional school setting, which is, this is really hard. I don't really understand this. I'm going to have to stick with this. I don't want to finish this, but I have to if I'm going to turn it in. You stick with it. You learn. You finally understand this math concept that you didn't understand a half hour ago. And now you turn it in and you get a good grade. That's the reward. And we're missing that like beautiful education. The figuring it out and that it's a reward. I can recognize that now, but when I was a kid, maybe I didn't see that I was actually enjoying some of that or gaining confidence. You know, our kids have missed a lot.
We didn't have technology. I mean,
no, we had Oregon Trail.
We had libraries and encyclopedias.
No, I'm a lot older. We had DOS by 10th or no, maybe in my senior year. I remember being in our first computer lab, but I went to a college preparatory and learning DOS, which
yes, no one has to use anymore.
By the time I was working, there was no DOS anywhere.
Yeah,
I know how to do a flow chart. That's it.
Yeah, and it was useful for a time, and that was probably great. And also, you know, you spent like a half hour a week in the computer lab, which was kind of all you needed at the time. And the truth is technology then you actually did need quite a bit of training. What's the command to do this thing? Or how do you pull up something or whatever? And today it's so much more intuitive. I mean, there's a whole field of study called UX and people go into software design and it's called user experience. The whole intention is make this as seamlessly easy to adopt and use. And they do. That's why you can pull up ChatGPT for the first time and within a couple minutes figure your way through using the software.
I have a lot of contact with youth in treatment facilities. And the funny thing that I learned from their little stories is that they come from areas where most of the education was based on DEI. That's what was important. But when they're getting sent to these wilderness camps or graduating to facilities or boarding schools, they are doing things where they're teaching them hard work, like going out in the wilderness and figuring out how to get through it. And they'll tell you these stories because I'll tell them, well, have you liked Utah? What did you do? You know, while I was in wilderness for 3 months, what did you do? And they'll tell you these things like, I figured out how to make a shelter, or I figured out how to do this. And I'm sure they're not probably like you, not thinking now like, that was so much fun. But they learned skills and they learned that they could do hard things and overcome things. And then they're mentoring other kids. And I'm like, how sad that the parents have to pay thousands of dollars monthly to send them to another state to get skills that should have been given to them in the education system.
Yeah. Our modern world really doesn't support what Jonathan Haidt calls slow dopamine. I don't know. Are you guys familiar with Jonathan Haidt? Yeah. And do you know his theory on slow dopamine? He calls it that a lot of technology, you know, it creates a quick dopamine hit for us. We play a game, we get a star, dings. Even when my cell phone makes a beep, there's a small dopamine hit of like, oh, what's happening, right? Yeah. And our body likes that. But there's also slow dopamine, which is like I go outside and I'm going to practice my free throw shot for 10 minutes or whatever. And when I get to a certain number of free throws that I make, that's the slower dopamine because I'm putting in this effort and it takes more work and then I get it and it's more rewarding and long lasting. And he points out that no kid in the summer ever gets to the end of his day and goes, well, that was the best day of video games I ever played, right? They don't even remember it. It's just this slow, unmemorable, unimportant dopamine. But in the moment, it keeps you satisfied and happy. But the kid might get to the end of a summer and go, wow, that was so cool that I went out with my friends. We built a tree house. And it took, months and weeks and effort. And it was sometimes hard work. But in the end, it was like a true reward. And I think that that's a real challenge for modern parents is how do we create experiences because they don't come as naturally as they used to, even from when I was a kid, of just more of that slow dopamine.
I had a youth group that they were doing a fundraiser and I purchased 2 hours of manual labor in the yard. And so they brought the whole group of boys over and I felt bad because this was the beginning of the summer, like it's bad.
Lots of weeds.
And I said the reason I'd had them is because there were things, it wasn't just weeds. I wanted everything, all the shrubs, all the trees, I wanted it blank up to the brick and then more. And, I went inside and there's a little bit of like, gosh, it's not hot out, but like they're doing such hard work and I feel bad. And I get word at Sunday over the pulpit that they were having a hard time pulling like a root this big that just went and they were each taking turns at hacking at it. And that one of them started saying, "This is fun. This is actually
I
fun."
know. My husband had a similar experience. He took a bunch of boys camping for like Boy Scouts. This was probably close to 20 years ago. They went kayaking, they went hiking, they went cliff jumping, they did all this stuff. They also used my husband's hatchet to cut up firewood. And this was like a major event, right? And these are probably boys 12 to 14 or so. And at the end of the whole camp out, it's like 3 days, they said, "What's your favorite thing?" It was cutting firewood. And my husband was like, "This is hilarious," because it's just something, it's the work and the satisfaction and the fun of like, "Oh, look at me, whack this piece of wood," and they don't do it in everyday life where we used to do that.
And at the end, looking at my yard, and I come out and I'm like, "You guys, this is amazing." I go, and letting them know this is something I can't do with health things between my husband and I.
Yeah.
We can't do all this.
And that's a reward for them.
Yeah.
Oh, and we had Warrior Risen Ranch on the podcast a couple months ago as well, and kids dealing with loss of a warrior, right? Dad doesn't come home from the theater, something happens, or dad's in a wheelchair now, or cognitively impaired. I mean, there's a lot of things that our veterans go through. And Warrior Risen Ranch brings the entire family into the ranch to try to help rebuild that self-esteem, work ethic, try to get over these difficulties. And they literally send them out there to bale hay, build fences, dig holes, dig pits, feed animals, just hard
Dragging their feet initially.
ranch
Yeah.
work. They're like, "Why am I doing this?" And then they said every single one of those teenagers said, "This is the best time I've ever had in a long time." And all they did the
work.
entire time was work.
It's a sense of accomplishment,
It's-
for sure.
They go home with a better sense that I can do things. I can survive even through deaths or impairments or anything like this. To kind of wrap things up, what specific policies or initiatives are you guys working on like right now? What are the big things you're working on right now?
Well, so another thing that we've learned is getting parents, you've got to, a policy is no good, right? A law is no good if you don't have parents advocating for the correct use of the policy. So right now, that's kind of what we're going to focus on is the Balance Act and parents getting involved and letting their schools and school districts know we want this policy in place. We'd like it to stay as close to the original policy as possible.
Do you think you could get PTAs involved? I mean, I know PTA in general is more left-leaning, but in Utah,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's a good question. I think we have a lot of parent support. I know we've struggled more with teachers support, at least initially, because like I said, there was some misinformation. So since it's a parent-teacher organization, I don't know how supportive they would be right off the get-go.
because in the local school, who's attending the meetings is really just the parents.
Yeah.
Parents with their positions. And then at the council level or the cone coming out of the high school, because I was also a council president,
Yeah.
you'll have like maybe a principal or an administrator attend that, maybe.
Yeah.
Depends on how active they are.
No, we would love like PTA and any school organization support, like UEA. That'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also with the SAFE Act being a study, we will just continue to work with USBE on getting that study pushed through so that then we can get the actual law passed and implemented. And so what would be most helpful is for, honestly, parents to continue to speak out and to let schools, legislators know that it matters to them, how technology is showing up in the classroom matters to
Yeah,
them.
in your district. So if you tell your district as a parent, I want a strong policy about school devices, and I want to be at the meeting when you get public input, like then maybe they'll schedule that meeting now instead of in the fall when it's crazy.
Yeah.
How would you prefer viewers to contact you?
What's the best way? Probably through Instagram, maybe?
Yeah. Yes. And I'm trying to think if on Child First, if it has our emails listed there.
Because we'll link that on there.
Sure.
Probably link the G-rated schools
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. We both, check G-rated. But yeah, either Child First, or G-rated on Instagram or Child First website.
You guys ever get called up and invited to like a school board meeting? There's some parent out there like, hey, could you guys come and
Cute.
Oh,
come and
I thought you meant the district was inviting us, because that has
No, where
never
parents would
happened.
say, hey, I'm going to go to my school board meeting, but they're not listening to me. Would you guys come down and help me? Have you guys ever been invited?
No, we haven't. I find that usually it's best if you're like a member of that district, right? Because you're a voter. But
Yeah, in our school, I don't know if this is true across all districts in Utah, but our district, you can't make a public comment unless you are like in
In
the
that school district.
Fair.
So, I mean, we could show up and be like, Claire, you know.
we could be a body in a seat.
Whisper in there, say this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would do that. If anybody wants to invite me to a school board meeting, I will definitely whisper it in here. Get up there and say this.
Oh, that's great.
I'm kind of vocal like that.
Well, you know, maybe I'd be willing. I don't know.
Do
Reach
a
out to me.
serial thing.
Let's just kind of help this thing out a little bit.
Yes.
All right. Well, anything else? Any last comments you want the public to know?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's good to
This
talk
is
about
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
We just love like the opportunity to tell parents what's going on, what's out there, also what is coming down the pipe. You know, with the
Parents you
loss.
have contacted you saying, I had no idea.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah. Like, a lot. Yeah. I don't even know. Hundreds.
Yeah, we get private messages on G-rated all the time, Child First all the time. Pretty much whenever we talk to a person about it in person, they say, oh, that can't be right. And we say, well,
Go check it out.
or they say, oh, my school district's so great. We don't have any problems like that. And I just say, oh, okay.
I don't know what you're talking
It's
about.
not good that opinion, right?
What about your families? Are your husbands just like, my wife's a stud?
My husband likes me a lot. Yeah. No, he's been pretty proud of this. I mean, I've been a stay-at-home mom for 18 years. I've been a dietitian by trade, so I
Oh, we'll have you on a whole new.
on a whole new thing. No, so and I've worked a little bit there in the last few years, but I think it's fun for my husband to see this be a way that like my passion of the last 18 years, which was raising my kids and watching how this is going and seeing it change as technology has changed. I think he's really proud of me. And I know Ryan's proud of Allie.
What about your kids? Are they just like, whatever? Do they
I
even
think
know you're fighting this fight?
No, they do. And sometimes I feel like they're like that, but a lot of times they're like, oh, that's cool, Mom. But I think that has come more. I feel like as time has gone on and they've like seen that like, oh, they're sticking with this. They're not stopping. And I actually feel like it's been like a great teaching opportunity. Like I keep telling my kids, like, it's not always easy. Like not everybody is very happy that, you know, Liz and I have been vocal about this. And sometimes that's hard. It's hard to know that your teacher might not be very happy with me, but I feel like it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to stand up
And
for what I
that's how
think is
we know
right.
we've made it. When they start trying to hack us and then
Yes.
get all the hate on there, then you know you're in the right
I
place.
think in the beginning, our kids were a little bit embarrassed. Like, oh, why is my mom talking about this? I have kids in middle school, high school, elementary. So, you know, prime embarrassment season. And they were a bit embarrassed. But I think as time has gone on and we've gained so much support, like legislatively through the state, more parents, I think that they realize, oh, my parents actually kind of know what they were talking about. And they are also in the class. It's like, so for a while, my middle schooler was very hesitant to tell me things. And even just more recently, he'll come home and say, guess what I can get to? Or guess what I can do? Because he knows I will be sympathetic to like, that is ridiculous that you're doing that at school. And so in some ways, they're actually really supportive. They do not really want to be on these devices all the time. They would much rather be doing some cool science project, not watching one on a computer. So
Maybe
I
it'll
think they're
become
actually
the
pretty
cool
supportive.
place to come tattle for their friends. to
Yeah,
come
maybe.
tattle.
Yeah.
Maybe. Allie's cool. She's a cool mom, so she can get away with
Know
that.
about that, but yeah, I don't know. I think our kids have been pretty great. Sometimes they will get annoyed about like, I can't have Snapchat, and I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely not.
you cannot. My friends have
Absolutely
it, and I say, well, your friends' parents don't know what I know then. So sorry.
Guess what? I'll talk to your parents and soon they won't have it either.
Do you want me to do that?
Yes.
Please don't, Mom. Please don't. Don't ruin it. I'll be the left.
Yes.
Horrible at school.
Yeah. Right.
More and more parents are holding off, though.
Yeah.
Like I compare my daughter who's 19 and my kids now, I feel like it was much harder with her because it was people just didn't know as much about how bad the technology was. And now I feel like there were these lawsuits against Meta in California, which you probably know about. So it's just becoming more public knowledge that there are serious problems with the way these are designed for children. And so I don't feel as alone as I used to.
Is being devastating to the kids. I mean,
Oh, horrible.
The whole suicide episode we did a couple weeks ago. I mean, that was the grounds for that is all those kids were committing suicide because of either challenges or issues that they had on social media.
Right.
And so if you got kids killing themselves because of it, it's definitely a problem. So why is the schools promoting it?
Right. I think people are waking up to that. And I feel like it is almost easier now than it was 5 years ago for me as far as holding off. My kids don't feel so alone at all.
Yeah. I know. And I do think that they've kind of resigned like to the fact like, okay, well, my mom is just not going to do this, you know? And it's like, yeah. And I always tell my kids.
My kids figured that out a lot.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah. Just be like, you know who I am. You know, you're not going to do this. But I do think.
My kids would go to school and they know my public views of politics and everything else like that. And if there was anything woke-ish at school where they thought they could get out of it, they'd use it. They'd use it. They'd totally use it.
That's so funny.
And then I remember one time in junior high, they'd call up and say, I'm going to get your dad involved. They're like, go for it.
They couldn't wait to watch that happen. Call my dad. Yeah.
Yes, that's so funny.
And there's been some things, well, I'll get my mom to come because they knew if I came, it'd be a bigger deal, right?
Yeah.
So they got their mom to come fix some of the problems so they know dad get involved and
That is so funny. Yes.
his would roll. So.
Maybe that's what's going on at my house. Maybe they actually call Ryan if they want to.
Yeah, it's fun. I was a general contractor for most of my kids' growing up years, and then so I was always called upon to go build the theater sets and all those kind of things. I can't tell you how many times I was building theater sets, but then so I was the fun guy that would go. The guy would go build everything for him, but I was also the guy that if teachers went at all woke,
They'd hear from you.
they'd hear from me.
It's good. Yeah. Yeah. You're keeping things in line.
Yeah, I'm not involved in that anymore because my kids are at charter school and it's been pretty.
Okay.
My wife teaches at the same school. So
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I mean, Utah is really awesome that there are so many great ways to have a different kind of education if you want. Charter school, homeschool, like Utah Fits All. I'm sure you guys, it's pretty awesome here in Utah.
Yeah, my wife taught at Montessori schools for a long time.
Cool.
And down in West Valley, then up here as well. But then got a job here at the Davis School District for a while and hated it.
Okay.
And didn't like anything of it because of just how restrictive it was and curriculum wasn't very good. And she went and got a job at charter school and has loved it ever since. And so
That is awesome.
so they go to school together, come home together,
That is
same
really
schedule.
Yeah. I love
No problems at all. So
That's very cool.
Let's start a charter school.
Just kidding.
yeah, for
Too
real.
tired for that.
I actually am.
Anyway.
Well, thank you.
So this is the God and Country podcast. The God and Country podcast is going to be sponsoring a major event out in Morgan at the Morgan County Building on May 22nd. So a couple weeks from now, 6:30 in the evening, we're going to have Phil Lyman, Tara Auxier, and Braden Hess come and speak as part of their campaign. So if you are in their districts, you're in Morgan County or the west side of Davis County where you're in Braden Hess or Stuart Adams district and you want to come out and hear them, or if you just want to come out and hear Phil Lyman and you're anywhere in Utah in his area, you want to come out and hear him. So Morgan County Building, middle of Morgan, Phil Lyman, Braden Hess, Tara Auxier is going to be there. Tina Cannon is also going to be there. She's going to be speaking for a few minutes, so look for that. Again, May 22nd, 6:30 p.m. This is God and Country, and we'll see everybody on the next video.